college football playoff has expanded to 12 teams, which means there are now more opportunities for teams to crash the playoff party. You're still going to have your elite contenders like your Georgias, your Alabamas, Ohio State. Last year you had Texas, you had Michigan, guys like that. Your elite playoff contenders that are expected to get there. But today, guys, we're breaking down four teams that maybe are flying under the radar, but if things go their way, they could end up crashing that playoff party by season's end. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today, talking about four potential playoff dark horses for this upcoming college football season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our website, thegridironexpert.com, with tons of exclusive content over there to help you get through this offseason, and our mailing address to send us some of your team's gear. All these helmets, these pennants back here have been sent in by you guys, members of the GE Nation. We want you to become a part of our GE Nation, and we want to represent your team in every single one of our videos. So take advantage of that. The links for all of it down in the description below. And again, take part, become a member of our GE Nation, because the season's going to be here before you know it. So let's just go ahead and dive into it. We got four teams, little quick hitters on all of them. We'll start in the Big 12. Believe it or not, we believe that Kansas could be a playoff dark horse. If you had told me that 3 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. Even when the playoff expanded to 12 teams, I would have laughed in your face. But Lance Leipold is building something special with the Jayhawks. Last year, the Jayhawks went 9-4, won their bowl game over UNLV. It was their best record since 2007. He's led them to back-to-back bowl games, as we mentioned, got that bowl win. And Kansas was so much better than that 9-4 record showed. They had 3 of their 4 losses coming by one possession to Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and Kansas State. And you can't help but wonder what the season could have been for the Jayhawks had Jalen Daniels been healthy for the entire season. Battled injuries for the majority of the year, really didn't play much at all last year. If he's healthy, do they beat Oklahoma State? Do they beat Texas Tech and Kansas State? Do they win 9 or 10 regular season games and flirt with a Big 12 title berth? Kansas was much better than that final record showed. This year, Jalen Daniels does come back, and we hope that he does stay healthy for the entire year. Devin Neal comes back at running back, one of the best running backs in the entire country, and the Jayhawks have a very favorable schedule. They won't have any true home games. They're undergoing stadium renovation. It's going to be beautiful when it's done. But 8 of the 12 teams that they have to play this year are teams that finished with a losing record last year. Their toughest games are probably at West Virginia and at Kansas State, and they only lost to the Wildcats 31-27 last season. The Jayhawks offensively, I believe, can hang with anybody in the Big 12. The defense has continuously shown improvement, and if things can go their way, if the Jayhawks do finish with around 10 wins in the regular season, they will flirt with a college football playoff berth. That's the beauty of this, guys. All these teams here, we're not saying they've got to go undefeated. We're not saying they've got to go 11-1, but with the expanded playoff, you can maybe get in with 2 losses. In the past, that was never the case with the 4-team playoff. But if you finish 10-2 and win your conference, even if you finish 10-2 and just miss out on your conference championship, you will have that opportunity to get an at-large berth, depending on your strength of schedule, your resume, things like that. But again, 2 losses does not derail your season like it has in years past. I want to stick in the Big 12 for our next dark horse. We're going to go with Utah. The Utes in recent years under Kyle Whittingham have been college football playoff contenders. They have flirted with playoff berths. They have entered seasons with playoff aspirations, and they have failed to get there during that 4-team format. Last year, I believe they would have once again had playoff aspirations had Cam Rising played. But Cam Rising did not play a single game last year, got injured in the Rose Bowl in the 2022 season. The end of the 2022 season, gets injured, doesn't play for any amount of time in 2023, and yet the Utes still went 8-5. With a horrendous offense playing the carousel of quarterbacks, Utah went 8-5. And I think that just shows how good of a team this is, how well coached they are. And now they're going to have one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 coming their way in Cam Rising. They're going to have one of their top pass catchers back in Brant Keithy, who did not play last year either. They have an always solid defense. They're not going to be an exception this year. Once again, going to be very strong. And if you look at their schedule, they get to host 2 of their toughest competitors in the Big 12, Arizona and Iowa State. Both have to come to Salt Lake City. And as we say, Salt Lake City is one of the most difficult places to play in the entire country. Arguably, their toughest games are on the road at Oklahoma State and at UCF. Once again, Utah if they can go 10-2 or better, could finally find themselves in the college football playoff. We've seen them do it before, getting 10 regular season wins, 11 regular season wins, whatever it may be. But whether it's falling short in the Pac-12 championship, whether it was falling short in the second to last game of the season, they were unable to do it this year, could be the exception if they can stay healthy. Going over to the Big Ten. And again, we're not saying all of these dark horses are going to be legit contenders, and we're not saying there aren't other dark horses out there, but these are 4 that I definitely have my eyes on. And I'm really intrigued by Iowa. Look, think about Iowa for a second. This team, like Utah, has been horrendous on offense. They were atrocious on offense last year. The year before, they were atrocious on offense, and yet they kept winning. Last year, they won 10 games with one of the worst offenses in the entire country. And you could chalk that up to saying, oh, well, that's because the Big Ten West was so weak. Whatever you want to say, I don't really care. That is insanely impressive to have one of the worst run offenses in the nation, an offense that was so bad that you had to chalk up a contract with your old offensive coordinator, say, hey, look, dude, you've got to average like 24 points per game, which isn't all that great, just to keep your job. He was unable to do that. So this is an Iowa team that went 10-4 last year. Only losses were to Penn State, Minnesota, in very controversial fashion, Michigan, and the Big Ten Championship in Tennessee. Yes, they were shut out in 3 of those 4 games, but those losses were to relatively quality opponents, especially Penn State, Michigan, and Tennessee. This is a team, guys, now that, like Utah, had their quarterback injured last year. Cade McNamara transfers in from Michigan. Everybody thought Iowa was going to get that offensive boost. He gets hurt early on in the year. Season thought was going to be derailed, still won 10 games and went to a solid bowl game. McNamara is back. He is healthy. They've got a brand new offensive coordinator in Tim Lester, the former Western Michigan head coach, going to take things over for the Hawkeyes. They only play one of the 4 elite teams in the Big Ten. They have to go to Ohio State, but they avoid Michigan, they avoid Oregon, and they avoid Penn State. They get to host at Kinnick Stadium Iowa State, Washington, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. They've got a very, very favorable schedule. You could chalk that Ohio State game up as a loss if you want to. Go ahead. More than likely that will be the case. But a 10 or 11 win season, I dare say, is not out of the question for Iowa. They have one of the best home field advantages in the country. They have an insane defense and have had so for years, always do under Kirk Ferentz. And if the offense can take a pretty big step forward, and many believe they will if they can stay healthy, Iowa is a team that could slip in to the college football playoff. And then finally, the last potential dark horse that we have comes out of the ACC, and we've got SMU. You've heard us talk about SMU for a while. They were mentioned in our way too early top 25. They were mentioned as one of our surprise teams just a few days ago, and maybe it would be a major shock if SMU did end up making the 12-team college football playoff. This is their first year in the ACC, but they won 11 games and won the American Conference last season. They now bring back Preston Stone, who, like Iowa, like Utah, was injured late last year. Didn't derail the Mustang season, but certainly their offense was not as potent as it was when he was healthy. Preston Stone back and healthy, very strong offensive line, a consistently improving defense that should remain strong once again this year, a defense that last year allowed over 28 points just 3 times, and one of those was in their loss to TCU, a Power 5 opponent. SMU now plays 7 teams that finished with a losing record last year, and that does not include a matchup against Houston Christian, an FCS opponent. So 8 teams that either had a losing record or are at the FCS level. They get to host TCU. They get to host Florida State. They get to host Boston College, who the Mustangs lost to in their bowl game last year. Their toughest game, and maybe their toughest road game as a whole, is going to come on the road against Louisville, the ACC runner-up. And I believe that SMU could easily be favored in 9 of the 12 games that they play this year. That means if they can pull 1 or 2 upsets, they could find themselves in the ACC championship game. Win that, you are definitely in. Lose that, and you still finish with 10 or 11 wins, and they are in the college football playoff. The Mustangs, guys, should not be slept on. They have a great opportunity. If they were doing this in the American, we wouldn't be talking about them as a playoff contender. But now they are in a power conference. They have a very good opportunity to do so. Rhett Lashley is building something special down in Dallas. They have the offense to hang with anybody in the ACC. They've got the schedule to line up for it. Don't be surprised if SMU is contending for a title in their first year in the ACC, and don't be surprised if they crash the college football playoff party, but not as a group of 5 team anymore, but as a Power 5 team. So there you go, guys. 4 potential playoff dark horses. There are plenty more out there. We could have spent all day talking about them. We'll talk more about them down the road. But these are 4 that you should definitely keep your eye on. Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and let's get ready for a season that is certainly going to be filled with twists and turns, and a season that's going to be really awesome once that 12-team playoff is finalized. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com. That includes our mailing address to send us some of your team's gear. We don't have Kansas, Utah, Iowa, or SMU gear up here. So if you're a fan of one of those teams, send it our way. We'll give you that big shout out. Make sure to have your team represented in every single Gridiron Expert video, because as we always say, we want you to become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.